We start the day's other headlines in the Middle East. An aid boat headed for Gaza has arrived in Israel after Israeli forces boarded that vessel and detained the activists on board, including climate advocate Greta Thunberg.
Added to the long list of war crimes that Israel has been committing.
We are being intercepted right now.
Israel's action was part of its long-standing blockade of the Palestinian territory. A legal rights group says the activists are expected to be held at a detention facility until they are deported. Israel's foreign ministry dismissed the voyage on social media, calling it the selfie yacht of celebrities, and said it would distribute the boat's aid through established channels. Meantime, in Gaza, Palestinian health officials say gunfire killed 14 people as they were heading to an aid center. Witnesses say the gunmen appeared to be allied with the Israeli military. It's the latest in a series of shootings that have killed more than 100 people since the rollout of new food distribution locations last month.
They open aid sites for people and then they kill them there. We don't want aid. We don't want anything. We'd rather be killed and be done with this whole thing. We are fed up with this life. He was not there to resist or to launch missiles. He went to get flour.
Israel's military has not commented on the latest shooting. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which runs the sites, says there has been no violence in or near the aid distribution centers themselves. Ukraine says that Russia launched nearly 500 drones and missiles overnight, the biggest such attack in their 3-year war. The Ukrainian Air Force claims to have shot down more than half of the drones and says only a handful reached their targets. Russia has intensified its strikes since Ukraine's surprise drone attack on Russian air bases earlier this month. Elsewhere, Russia and Ukraine carried out the first stage of their latest prisoner swap. It was agreed to during talks in Istanbul last week, but otherwise failed to produce any progress toward a ceasefire. Delegations from the U.S. and China are meeting in London to try to resolve their ongoing trade dispute. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent met with China's vice premier in the first of what could be 2 days of talks. They were joined by U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, and their Chinese counterparts. The negotiations at London's Lancaster House come after the world's two biggest economies agreed to a 90-day suspension of many of the highest tariffs last month. But still, new data shows that China's exports to the U.S. fell by 35% in May from a year earlier. President Trump's new travel ban barring citizens of a dozen countries from entering the U.S. took effect this morning. The order restricts nationals from 12 mainly African and Middle Eastern countries from entering the country and adds partial travel restrictions on people from 7 other countries who don't hold a valid visa. There were no major delays reported at the nation's airports today as a result of the ban, nor any significant protests. That's unlike when Mr. Trump instituted a similar ban during his first term that barred travelers from 7 Muslim-majority countries, which resulted in chaos and protests at several airports. Dozens of scientists at the National Institutes of Health issued a rare public criticism of the Trump administration's public health policies today. In a 4-page letter, around 90 staffers wrote, quote, "We dissent to administration policies that undermine the NIH mission, waste public resources, and harm the health of Americans and people across the globe." The letter was addressed to NIH Director Jay Bhattacharya and addresses the termination of some 2,100 research grants worth more than $12 billion. In response, Bhattacharya said the letter contained what he called some fundamental misconceptions about the direction of the agency. Separately, Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said today he's removing every member of a scientific panel that advises the CDC on how to use vaccines. He's pledging to replace them with his own selections. Kennedy recently changed CDC recommendations for COVID-19 shots without consulting the 17-member panel. Warner Brothers Discovery is splitting into 2 companies as it tries to adjust to how people consume TV and movies. One side will focus on streaming with HBO, HBO Max, Warner Brothers Television, and Movies, plus DC Studios falling under one umbrella. The other company will focus on cable and will include CNN, Discovery, TNT Sports in the U.S., plus digital products like Bleacher Report. Today's announcement follows a similar move by Comcast, which said last November that it plans to spin off its cable networks, including MSNBC, into a separate publicly traded company. A judge in New York dismissed a $400 million lawsuit today from actor and director Justin Baldoni against actress Blake Lively. It's the latest development in a long-running legal feud stemming from their film It Ends With Us. Lively sued Baldoni last December for sexual harassment and retaliation. He then sued her and her husband, Ryan Reynolds, for defamation and extortion. The judge said today that Baldoni couldn't sue Lively for defamation because allegations made in a lawsuit are exempt from libel. Lively's sexual harassment lawsuit against Baldoni is ongoing. On Wall Street today, stocks ended little changed as traders looked for clues from those U.S.-China trade talks. The Dow Jones Industrial Average lost just a single point, so basically flat. The Nasdaq added around 60 points on the day. The S&P 500 also ended virtually unchanged. And a passing of note, funk legend Sly Stone of Sly and the Family Stone has died. He was the creative powerhouse behind hits like Everyday People and one of the most prominent musicians of the 1960s and early 70s. As a singer, songwriter, and producer who played multiple instruments, Stone drove the band's unique sound, which covered everything from dance tracks to unifying anthems. Their music influenced generations of funk, soul, and rock musicians and fans. His family says Stone died after a battle with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD. Sly Stone was 82 years old. Still to come on the NewsHour, Tamara Keith and Amy Walter break down the latest political headlines. And comedian Sarah Silverman gives her brief but spectacular take on grief and humor.
This is the PBS NewsHour from the David M. Rubenstein Studio at WETA in Washington and in the West from the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism at Arizona State University.